What's up everyone, welcome back to another live stream. Happy Sunday. I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend. We are getting really close to the end of the year, basically one more month of active trading. And then you get into Christmas time, so I hope you guys are enjoying. And what an interesting 2 weeks of trading in November after the election. And now the market may be readjusting a little bit after that enthusiasm of Trump winning the US election, becoming the next US president. We're going to take a look a little bit at the different markets. So if you are new, we do a weekly market analysis. We go across different assets, FX, US indices, including also DAX, crypto, just Bitcoin, Ethereum, a little bit of Solana as well. Let's see if we're going to have a continuation, if eventually Bitcoin is going to reach the 100K. And then we go a little bit also into commodities, oil, gold, silver. All right, so that's a little bit of what we are going to do. Also looking at individual currency pairs. It's more in a higher time frame, what we do here over the weekend. And then on a daily basis, I haven't done it, but I'm going to try to come back into doing again the pre-market analysis, which is more of a neat daily basis, looking for intraday setups. Today is more about trying to identify how to position ourselves into the next week. So let's take a look at the market. Before we actually jump into the charts, we always start with dollar index. Let's actually take a look at the news, right? And what kind of news event we are going to have this week that can help and work as a catalyst in the market. It's going to be slightly quieter comparing with what we had the last 2 weeks. So last week, we can maybe start from there and then we look into this week. We had the CPI, like CPI in the US, which was slightly higher. On a month-to-month basis, it came out as expected, both the core and the CPI, normal. But in terms of a yearly basis, it actually saw an uptick from 2.4% to 2.6%. This was already expected. All right, so that's nothing dramatic in that sense, but this is a concern and something that the market, and more importantly at this point, the Fed needs to pay attention to. Of course, no one's going to know exactly what Trump is going to do once he gets into power in January, in terms of what kind of tariffs is he going to apply and so on and so forth, and eventually how that can affect eventually inflation. So I think the Fed is going to take a more conservative approach, more of waiting before they actually start rating cuts as maybe they were even expecting in the first place. So that's something that we need to pay attention. Looking at the Fed watch, the odds haven't really changed. All right, of course, there's a slightly higher increase of probability for the rates to stay the same, but comparing last week, nothing really changing here, right? Still 60% comparing with 38 of remaining the same. Again, this is basically in 1 month from now. We're going to have that meeting. We're going to have more data being released before that. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Fed eventually is going to do. But expecting at this point, we can continue with the rates going lower, but at lower pace. Okay, so it may take longer actually for that to happen until eventually we actually understand what Trump wants to do and how the economy is going to react to it, and the inflation as well is going to react to it. Aside from that, not really much going on. We actually had a commentary from the Fed, basically saying what I just mentioned right now, and that was basically it. Especially in terms of the West, we had also unemployment in the UK. It was okay, but GDP was actually negative. And that's why we continue to see a negative move on the pound since we had the budget announcement at the end of last month. We can see pound going really negative, the downside. Next week we are not really expecting much in terms of news, specifically in the US. We have CPI in Canada, then CPI also in the UK, nothing much. Unemployment claims, and then of course on Friday is going to be quite interesting with manufacturing services PMI. Again, this has been always a day where you see some volatility in the market, but that's on Friday, still a long time before that. So yeah, in Japan, regarding to the yen pairs, we saw a really big move to the upside yesterday on the yen, and we moved to the downside again on the individual yen pairs. So that's going to be interesting also to see if this comment from the government whether is going to do anything or not, and if this is a new cycle that's about to start, looking at the yen pairs, especially the yen index moving to the upside and the other ones to the downside. Something that we could have been looking for recently, and we were looking for that, but it was interesting. It was a really strong day on Friday. I didn't really see anything in particular that for that to happen. In reality, that's how the market moved. All right, so now we are looking at the dollar index. By the way, if you are new, feel free to subscribe to the channel and feel free to comment as well what kind of opportunities you are looking for in the market. Let's analyze the market together in here and see what kind of buys we can expect in the market. All right, so looking at dollar index, as we know, since the beginning of October, we started this bullish run and then it resumed again. We were at a little bit of a retracement beginning of the month, but then with the US election, we just continue now with the dollar strength, and all of a sudden, we just filled out this range. I could imagine that at the end of September we'll be at these lows, and in middle of November we are already breaking all these highs in here and getting closer to these highs that were created back in 2023, okay, September 2023. So in reality, we actually just broke new highs for the year on the dollar, and let's see if the expectation is actually to continue to move a little bit more to the upside, actually breaking away from this range where we have been trading for the last few years and starting to challenge a little bit, perhaps closer to this zone in here. So we'll see if that eventually is going to happen. Yes, you may have something in there that price can definitely react from after taking this high, but let's see if price does want to get closer to that or not. At this point, it's still reacting underneath this high in here. There was actually a supply level in there on the dollar index, and that's where price is reacting. So yes, we do still have a few zones in here within this high that we perhaps can look for price to react from. But yeah, we need to see also some weakness. So we need to see dollar index breaking some lows. Otherwise it's going to be quite difficult to then see dollar index actually turning if it just continues respecting the lows and breaking new highs, right? Just typical bullish trend. Aside from this move in here, right, price basically is reacting from that level. We do have also this level in here, which it seems like it's still fresh. At least on this 4-hour time frame, I don't really have much more data when I go into the war time frame in here. I think 4-hour time frame is actually the lowest that I have. That's the one I'm using to around on the chart. So yes, we do have this level, which I could still see eventually price faking out this level and having some kind of reaction here before even price tries to aim to go all the way to take this high, and then all of a sudden we'll be looking for price to get into this next structure, and then targeting this high must be the next thing, and eventually can get closer to this range in there. Of course, when you do take this high, because it's just a clear high in the higher time frame, you may have some kind of volatility in place as well in there. So that's going to be interesting. Again, looking at the dollar index, that's what we have in here on the war time frame. Now, I just mentioned in regards to the war time frame that we need to see some lows being broken on the way up, and you start having that part in here. Okay, we had that break of this low, then we had a new low being created in here. This low also broke a little bit that structure, even though maybe you can consider all of this, but I can see a little bit of a low being broken in there. And for now, the first target, any shorts in here, it will be, of course, first and foremost, whatever low is the closest, and then it's going to be this range. So that's a little bit where I can still see this euro index, this dollar index reacting from. As I mentioned, there is a zone just above that that previous one, okay, above that that high, and that high is used. Okay, I'm using that one, right? So if I actually just extend this, we can have a reference point where we are in here. So if you do have that point in there, I could still see price eventually going towards there. All right. So I wouldn't be surprised if eventually we do have new highs being created. Maybe we can have a little bit of a reaction from there, and then maybe price can finally fill this level. And that's, in my opinion, one of the last levels within that high on the left side where price can still react from, and maybe you can have a good reaction from it, or the opposite, and price just continues and eventually takes out that structure and you start looking for something else. So that's what you can have in here on the dollar index. If price by any chance starts breaking this structure in here, all right, so if it actually breaks below this potential target that we have in here for any shorts, then 1 second, then you can start looking for price to go actually a little bit further down and maybe react from some structure in here. Okay, so we had that structure in there. There's maybe something in here, or even fake out that level into this zone in there, and this basically rectangle just gets a little bit wider into these lows as a potential target in here on the index. 1 second. All right, so that's, in my opinion, what I'm going to be looking for. I like the small breaks of lows that we have in here. I'm not sure if price is going to just respect the highs. We had a kind of an interesting closing on Friday, but I could see maybe we have a new high being created in here. 1 second. There's no structure in there, right? Yeah, this is a candle. Okay. Yeah, open for both possibilities, but I would like actually that high to be faked out, price reacting from there, and maybe then you could have a deeper reaction. If price again just reacts from here, starts moving higher, and this goes, and then this you can just go and yeah, just continues. Yeah, so again, not really much in here on dollar index. If you have any bias, just feel free to let me know in the comments, and we can maybe look a little bit more. And then you'll see also where the euro dollar and pound dollar and so on are, in order to also help us a little bit what we can expect with more precision on the dollar index. But those are a few zones in here to look for. Now looking at the US indices, right? So we had that big momentum to the upside after the election, and it lasted a few days until beginning of last week. We start to have a little bit of a range, and now price actually found some selling pressure, and basically already are below the previous all-time high. All right, and that's going to be an interesting zone actually in here on the S&P to see if price actually keeps respecting this level. All right, this was basically the last supply level that was fresh before price broke everything, because in here on the left side everything was compressed. And also I think there's a little bit of a demand zone in there. Yep, there's literally kind of a demand zone in here that managed to finally break out this all-time high. So this level will be always interesting, and expecting price to react from it. And price is doing that, like at least it closed reacting from that level. Now the curiosity is to see if price eventually is going to fill out this range to the downside, which now we are targeting potentially this level in here. All right, that could be eventually a target to look for on the S&P for price eventually to fill there. Of course, before that may not even go all the way closer to this clear demand zone that everyone basically can see, but you can actually consider this upper edge in here as a zone where this S&P could react from, and you do have also this left shoulder in there, so it can be potentially the zone where price may wants to just react from at this point without even getting all the way deeper into that level. These are just a few levels that we can consider and pay attention to. Even at the highs in here, even though price kind of respected quite, yeah, basically it respected those levels in there, but maybe there's some left, yeah, some orders left behind in here, maybe at this extreme, at this highs, even though price kind of spiked a little bit. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I may not really look for any sales as price getting, when eventually price gets closer to these highs, we may actually have new all-time high being created before we see another move to the downside or retracement from there. So yeah, perhaps a little bit in here, but it looks like it's already reacted from. Is there anything in here at this extreme? Maybe. yeah, I'll be looking for the extreme in there. Is there anything underneath this level? Maybe. Right, so those will be basically a little bit of the levels that I'll be more looking for in here on the S&P, to be honest. But it's okay, it's normal, a little bit of a reaction. Like again, the problems, the everything that has been going on still in the US economy, they are still there. It's not just because Trump won. Of course, we can have that initial reaction, but now we need to understand actually how everything can play out, like, and how Trump actually is going to deal with the real problems that the US economy, the debt, and everything else, yeah, that's going on in the US. Then we have Nasdaq. Nasdaq also correcting, and that was an interesting move. Actually, this was a great price action of a reversal when you create kind of starting to create new lows. We have a mid-range in there, and then you have a fresh order, a fresh level in here, if I'm not mistaken. No, I didn't. I didn't, because it was not mentioned. Like, I mentioned it within the group, but I didn't mention in here on the stream because this was actually only created on Monday. But you're looking for those sales. In here, this was a really nice move, and then price started to turn again. These were which we already break below the zones, and there was literally space in here for price to fill, with the possibility to go even further down. And that's basically the next level, right? Basically similar to the S&P, we are looking for Nasdaq also to fill basically out of this price eventually. And just the same story, we do have perhaps this upper edge in here where price could still react from, and in reality it looks like that maybe price already reacted with these lows in here, which then actually opens the door for price to go further down into that next zone, right? Again, this initial reaction that we may think that perhaps could be somewhere in here, because price actually already reacted from it, we start actually going slightly higher, and this zone in here starts becoming the next one, and all of a sudden this is the one that actually matters, because everything in between basically is compressed, and this is where the suppression happens in here. So that's basically where price is reacting. Of course, there's still this level, there's maybe still a zone in here at the top, even though that one actually may have reacted from it. But at this point, expecting Nasdaq to go all the way, getting closer into that structure in there. So that's a little bit more of the take where we're going to be looking for on the Nasdaq. With definitely potential reactions from here and pushing to the downside. Now, this could be quite interesting, even though we never managed to break that low, and we talked about that. That reaction in here on the Nasdaq, it was not that far away from those previous highs in there, right? And if you start, by any chance, if you actually do manage to break below that level, this was in here, or even more below that structure, well, that opens a really potential drop in here on the Nasdaq. In terms of price action, that will be quite of a bearish sign if you do manage to break below that structure. All right, even if price by any chance does retest a little bit closer to this level, this can still mean a potential move to the downside, getting closer to this level again. So in my opinion, in here, it's quite important that actually Nasdaq managed to hold price to the upside and starting to push higher, and not really breaks. So that will be quite an important one in terms of price action, bullish or bearish price action. Looking at the DAX now just reacting from the previous high. So previous level support resistance, we talked about that basically these lows in here, they never really reacted from the zone, which means that the zone was still fresh, and that's basically where price now is reacting a little bit from. Now we do need to see eventually highs being broken if the Dow does want to continue to move a bit more to the upside. All right, so we do have that structure in there. Of course, we do still have that one as well. And if not, the same way that price just moved to the upside quite aggressively, eventually could also move to the downside quite aggressively. Now we do have this structure in there. It looks like that was a zone that price kind of ignored on the way up, which can always be a level then eventually where price can react as the opposite of structure. So that's something to bear in mind in here, and of course then the extremes at these levels in there. Mm. Yep, not really much to talk about it. So if you start breaking above this level, then you can start looking for retest to the highs. If that level kind of continues to hold, then you'll not see that. Not Dow. DAX actually managed to break below, right? So DAX managed to break below that structure. That's kind of a low that we were looking for. Even broke, got really close to the next one. Yeah, it even managed to break that one and got a little bit closer to that next one. So yeah, we'll see on the DAX in here. Again, it's kind of creating this range, starting to break some lows. I think that can open the door to the downside. But interesting enough, one more time the price kind of just breaks the low, then retests this left shoulder and pushes to the upside. Basically that happened in there as well, in here. So that's interesting. Yeah, we'll see what's going to happen. Price is finding some resistance in here. It can go back to the highs. Maybe can find some selling pressure again. We'll see, but the break of this low, it kind of opens the door to downside. So that's something in there on the DAX that we can take into consideration. If price by any chance does want to go all the way and fake out these highs, then it could, because we do have a lot of structure already created around this level, even though we do have basically a double top now within this level. So if price still wants to respect something at its highs, it could still do it. But it's quite a strong zone already in here. So if by any chance price does want to fake out that level one more time and then push to downside again, it could, but it doesn't need to. The structure is quite okay where price is reacting from. Yeah, and then price could go slightly higher. All right, that's basically for the indices. Again, the situation in Germany is not the best. I think they're going to have elections now scheduled for February. So that's going to be interesting, and the economy doesn't really look good. And as we continue to get more data with those manufacturing and even services and PMI that you're going to have, for example, on Friday, that's something to keep an eye on. How important that data is going to be for the DAX and also for the euro pairs. Crypto. So we have Bitcoin, right? We got as high as at this point 93.4 maybe. Then it started finding a little bit of resistance. Good reaction from this low, and basically the good reaction out from the highs as well. Like basically finding a little bit of a resistance. I'm still expecting price to continue to go and reach to 100k. I think that's going to be kind of a lot of pressure for price to get to that stage. This level in here could be interesting to see price reacting and potentially accumulate to go to the upside afterwards. So I don't like that possibility. Maybe price can get closer a little bit to this 82, 80 and then move to the upside again. Again, looking at where price previously actually broke the previous all-time high, was somewhere in here. So even this level also is not that bad neither, for price eventually to go and react. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, continuation to the upside, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Ethereum reacted really nicely from that fresh level. Can basically, I think we mentioned that as well. So that high never really reacted from the structure, reacted in here, and now pushing a little bit to the downside. So yeah, we'll see if there's a need to go a little bit lower before moving higher, or if this is enough of a zone and price could start moving to the upside from here. Savannah is actually moving more to the upside. There was a big gap in here. It's about to, if not mistaken, breaking new all-time highs. It's getting really close to those previous highs in there. And yeah, why not going all the way through? It looks like a great level to break. One interesting that I'm going to keep an eye on is actually this Ethereum Bitcoin. just in terms of to see when to expect more momentum or strength in one comparing with the other. And I'm curious to see, like, as you can see, basically Bitcoin has been the strongest in terms of moving much more than Ethereum, and I'm curious to see how price may react from this level. May have a little bit of a pause on Bitcoin and Ethereum expanding in that moment. So that's something to bear in mind in here. Trading one of these two, maybe that can help you, at least for this initial move turn in here. Because then, yes, we can continue to move forward. If price starts breaking that level, then you start looking for here, and then, yeah, then not much left. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. Looking at the currency pairs and starting with the Euro Index. All right, so Euro Index did manage to finally break below all that structure. Like, we have been more bearish than bullish on the Euro Index, and this is a reflection that you can see also on the Euro pairs, in particular also Euro Dollar. So we finally managed to break all the way through. We've been bearish. We haven't really seen any proper break to the upside that actually changes the dynamic of this move, even though we may have compressed a little bit in here after breaking those lows. But now we also start managing to break those lows in there as well and getting closer to this level, or eventually even a little bit more further down. So yeah, that level doesn't look bad. Perhaps to look for a reaction. So that's something to bear in mind. Otherwise, yeah, it looks like it was a lot compressed on the way up, which price can just go all the way down. And then we have the yen index. Like, in the yen index, this is exactly what we talked about in terms of the strength on the yen index. So on Friday, we had that big push to the upside. Again, we talked about these lows in here, that price could easily still react from them and then push to the upside. We like the compression as well, where price has been moving, and then the momentum, and now finally managing to break above all this structure, basically reacting a little bit from the next zone. And yes, we are looking for price eventually to go all the way and reach this zone in there as well. So that's something to bear in mind. Yeah, this is a nice reaction in here. Yeah, actually that could be eventually the other edge up in there. Is there any chance that price can still even retrace one more time and go for a long again? Perhaps, yeah, we could see that happening. Is there anything in here for a trend continuation setup? Maybe it can do that as well. So that's something to keep an eye on in here. Yeah. So yeah, we had this strength on the yen index. Now, looking at the individual currency pairs. Second. All right, we have euro dollar, Aussie dollar, euro dollar, pound dollar, Aussie dollar, and so on. Like, so throughout the week, it looked like that you were about to have potential turn, but then price, especially at the end of the day, found out always a way to end up going to the downside, and the opposite on the dollar index to finish strong. Now on the euro dollar, we start having some highs being broken. Right, so initially we did manage to break that low that we talked about. Then we had the CPI data with the spike up, and then just a continuation to the downside. As you can see, price never really managed to break this structure in here, but there was no clearing move to the upside in there. We did manage to break slightly above this structure, but the reaction was literally into the next one, and then we continue to move over. And now we start having a few more highs being taken in here, even also this structure. So that's nice. It's nice to start seeing at least some move to the upside on the euro index, the same way that you are seeing those lows being taken on the dollar index. Euro dollar also finding a way to break some highs. Now, price is reacting from these lows. I'm not the biggest fan of this low, especially on this time frame. It looks like that price may have already spiked everything in here, and you could potentially start looking for price to go further down. All right, that would be potentially a possibility in here on the euro dollar. But so far, price is respecting again. I do see still even a possibility for price to react from here. I don't really think that this level has been reacted just yet or by any of these lows, which means that we could have one of those setups. Now let's see how price is going to open in a few hours. If you get straight away the momentum, that's nice. Again, this for me, it looks like it's a clearing goof to the upside, unless in a more time frame something different. Price actually went down and then it retested. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. But if this one starts to turn, then this euro dollar may have a good price to run to the upside. That's something to bear in mind. Pound dollar, it just continues to be even more negative. Like pound dollar is actually breaking new lows opposite to the euro dollar. At this point, euro dollar already reached kind of an interesting low on the left side. Pound dollar, yeah, pound dollar just continues. Again, since we had the budget announcement, that pound dollar has been super bearish with a lot of momentum in here as well. So we'll see until where this pound dollar is going to go towards. So this is actually a nice level where price is reacting at this point. So any chance if price does want to react from here, it could. Okay, so that's literally a demand zone. Those lows never reacted from it, and that's where price is reacting at this point. And then we'll see, because after that we may have a little bit of this structure. Basically everything has been taken already in here, then this spiked as well, and they're starting to look for pound dollar actually to go way further below. All right. Yeah, so we need to see some of these highs in here as well being taken, and then perhaps you can have a move. We'll see. All right, we'll see where this one is going to lead us. Somewhere in here could be some kind of decision point as well, to perhaps look for some kind of reaction. But yeah, pound dollar quite bearish in this particular case, and this takes us to euro pound, which actually has been moving a little bit more to the upside. Again, these lows in here, I was looking for price to get a little bit closer before looking for that long, after kind of starting to break this level, something a bit deeper before moving to the upside. So it didn't really happen. Perhaps it could be in the future. Again, pound dollar, euro pound, sorry, has been reacting nicely from that low in here on the left side, and you could see a little bit of bullishness in here on the pound dollar. Sorry, on euro pound. And if by any chance, if that's about to happen, then pound dollar would continue to move lower. So yeah, again, in here it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. And then in there. Aussie dollar, which also goes into New Zealand dollar and so on. We have price continue to move to the downside. I don't really see yet a high being taken in here on the Aussie. Therefore, I would like to continue to see Aussie dollar moving a bit more to the downside. All right. Now, question mark, is there anything in here that price could react, like, or respect? That's a little bit more of the question mark. And it's a tricky one because, again, that was with this 5th of August kind of a move. All right. When it was that specific trade with the yen pairs. Retrade, so, and then price just reversed immediately and didn't really have much more behind it here. So we do have perhaps a demand zone where maybe price eventually can react from. So we'll see how price may react from here. At this point, basically already reacted from slightly below that level. So is there any stance for this Aussie dollar to actually pay out from here and push the upside, or eventually we are going to target this low and this Aussie dollar is just going to continue this kind of compression all the way through until we have a turn. All right, that's a bit of the question mark in here, if we're going to have any potential turn or not. Yeah, we'll see. But as long as we don't really have a clear break to the upside, I think eventually tendency can be to see a few more selling pressure. I don't like this double bottom. I really like it. I could still see price which is faking out that zone and then pushing to the upside. I do like that. Euro Aussie is also in this strong compression in here, and eventually you are going to see if you're going to have this push to the downside, and that could lead into an Aussie dollar push to the upsides. Okay, so Euro Aussie down, Aussie dollar could actually go higher. So that's going to be quite interesting to see what's going to happen around this structure. Yeah, we'll see. New Zealand, so that's the other one, right? So New Zealand is also moving to downside, managing to break new lows. It also already managed to actually to break out this structure, and you get into the next one, right? Price is basically reacting from something in there with the possibility to even go slightly lower into something else in here. So that's something to bear in mind. Now that we already basically took this yeah, those two. Yeah, we'll see. At this point, we didn't really manage to break this high, so I would like to see also eventually that being taken. Good reaction from this level, so this is actually kind of an interesting zone where New Zealand is reacting from. Yeah, perhaps we can go a bit more to the upside and then turn, or you can actually fake out this low as well one more time for potentially price turning all the way. And one of the zones then that we're looking for is for price to go all the way closer to this next level. Yeah, we'll see. Now looking into the yen pairs, right, and starting with the Aussie yen, we had a really strong negative move in here on the Aussie yen. So we had that fake out that was really nice, and we started actually looking for those sells. Then we ranged for a few days until we finally moved to the downside. Like we had already a break to the downside in there, and then there you go with that move on Friday, a really strong move, and price basically filling out this range in here, where basically we can eventually look for this move in here on the Aussie yen to go towards to. All right. Yeah, that's a little bit on the Aussie yen. Now dollar yen, that's a beauty, right? So price which we starting to turn. This was something that we were looking for as well. Something that I like about this one is that we started to have those lows being broken on the way up, right? So that's what I mentioned several times in terms of looking for weakness, and that's exactly what we had in here on the dollar yen. We start noticing those lows being broken until we find completed exhaustion, and then price eventually turns. Unfortunately, it was overnight. It's not a bad level, to be honest. It's basically the beginning of this last push to the upside, and some kind of decision point was made somewhere around here to break this level and challenge and going all the way to break new highs in there. And on the way down in here, price didn't really manage to react that much until eventually just broke to the downside. So yeah, when working into that level is not a bad one. And yeah, nice move in here so far. And there's maybe more room to the downside as well. Now that you actually managed to break below that that will is perhaps a little bit more of room to the downside. Euro yen filled the target as well, right? So we talked about euro yen. Again, nice turn, nice reaction, then price just ranging here, and then it started to also range in here, right? This was literally a support becoming resistance level plus a level of supply in here, right? That's exactly basically what we had. This highs never reacted from it, and price started to create all this structure until eventually we managed to go all the way. This one got really close, this one got a little bit better. We had a lot of compression in here as well, so yeah. In terms of target for this euro yen, of course, it was basically to fill out all that space. That's something that we talked about as well. And now the question mark is price going to actually manage to break below that level and show more weakness on the euro and strength on the yen pairs? Or by any chance is price now going to respect this level and start moving to the upside from here? That's a little bit of the question that you can look for anticipating here on the euro yen. Breaking below this lows, then maybe there's a more continuation setup to look for. Pound yen, same thing. All right, so again we had that turn at that was already last week. Price basically, yeah, fake out that high, reacted. We were looking for those initial turns. Price basically compressed all the way there. It moved to the downside, and we'll see. Now price just broke all these lows, and as you can continue to move a little bit further down. Yeah, this well kind of stopped in the middle. Not really ideal, to be honest. But the continuation, and it, again, as you can see, there's a lot of compression in here, which almost takes this this potential move all the way to the downside. So that's something to keep an eye on. At the end, also turned, like that was another of the cut pairs, sorry, the end pairs. Really strong move from that zone. That's something that we also looked for. Really strong. This previous was support resistance as well, so that was really good, to be honest. I can just keyboard run out of battery. All right. Yeah, that was a nice little move where price basically filled out that initial space, and now we can even continue potentially to have some reaction from here. So you can go all the way, take these lows. There's maybe even something in here that price could react from. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. Potentially can start losing some kind of momentum in here until price eventually starts turning to the upside, or go all the way and finish this level and eventually goes into the next one in there. Right, so that will be something to follow. Another really strong move to the downside in here. And this takes us into the dollar CAD. Like dollar CAD has seen a strong bullish momentum. We finally managed to break above this highs back in 2022, and you are revisiting a place that was back from 2020. Okay, almost basically COVID type of moves. Now we are reacting from this weekly level, right? As you can see, there was not really much going on all the way through, and price basically just filled out this range, getting into this weekly week, basically the beginning of this push down that managed to get away from this range that we have been trading back in the past. So that's a little bit on the euro CAD. Again, reacting from that nice supply level in there. We may have that zone in here as well, where price can find some orders, and then you get into the next level, which is that one, and then all of a sudden we go all the way and start even looking higher than that if price just continues to go. Now dollar CAD sometimes likes to move in ranges, or at least in kind of compression, and that's maybe what we can look for. One of the targets that could eventually look for, of course, is the retest of this structure in here. All right, so price eventually could come back a little bit closer to this level. Now price on the way down, as you can see, it's already kind of compressed quite a lot. took that order in there. There's maybe something in here, and now kind of broke new highs again, kind of retest this level again. We may have something in here as well to look for, so something in there. And then once it starts breaking below that low, then it can even go all the way and start looking for price to react from somewhere in here. Right now, price moved to the downside. It did manage to break slightly that level on a little bit of supply zone in here, but it can continue to move a little bit more to the upside as well. So again, be careful selling this dollar CAD pair until we got really good confirmation. Otherwise, you may get smashed because price looks like this on a mission to move way more to the upside. Again, we're going to have CPI and a few news in Canada over this week, so pay attention to that, and eventually you can have some reaction, right? Can have some retracement in here. You can see since the beginning of October how many bullish candles versus bearish candles that we had during all this move. Like, it's extremely bullish at this point. So we will see. Looking at Euro CAD and then Pound CAD, right? So Euro CAD filled all the range as well, right? So we're looking for those sales again. We're looking slightly higher in there before moving down the downside. Didn't really pay out, and you had that continuation, and now basically price filling one of the targets below that level into this structure in there. It was a nice zone where price basically reacted from in here. All right, so that was a nice one. Again, price was already starting to break some structure in here. This size actually goes slightly higher than that level, and then all of a sudden you have that momentum in there. Maybe price even missed this level a little bit. Yeah, but the pattern and the payout in here, it looks good for a potential move a bit more to the upside. Now we do have this previous level support resistance in there. We'll see how price may react from this level. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps price eventually can retrace a bit more into this level in here. Eventually look for longs, or eventually come back into this range in here. All right, now Pound CAD, bit similar with the fact that we did manage to break this low, and that was demand zone that was still fresh because those was never reacted from it. We did fake out that high in there. Again, we are getting really close, or we were getting really close to that structure, and perhaps we can find a little bit of reversal. We had this strong trend line as well coming all the way back from 2022, and now we managed to actually break it. All right, they actually managed to break that level. We can't slightly that will react just from that next structure in there. We'll see what's going to happen in here. I could still see going a little bit more to the downside. But on the other hand, we can also potentially start finding some buy pressure on the pound pairs, and this pound CAD could also benefit from it. So that's something to bear in mind in here. Nice compression on the way down. And that's basically what you get when you have one moving to the downside, and you have CAD also moving, and yeah, so you have this strong compression. All right, next, dollar franc Swiss. All right, so dollar franc Swiss continue to move a bit more to the upside. It's reacting from an interesting level. It's just following also what the dollar index is doing. So we do have a few zones. This is one of them. All right, it's a nice fresh supply level that price is reacting from. Perhaps can even go slightly higher, and price is already starting to break some lows as well, and perhaps you could feel this range in there in here before potentially continue to move to the upside. So looking in more detail in here, we actually reacted really nicely from this demand zone, but we did manage to break below those levels. So is there going to be anything in here that maybe this dollar franc Swiss can still use? That's a question mark. The bigger picture, eventually price can go a little bit further up. However, we have been bullish quite aggressively, and eventually going to have some reaction in here on the dollar franc Swiss. So that's one to also keep an eye on. Again, you can see that spending a little bit of time in there until eventually going to have those retracements. Definitely want to keep an eye on. Gold, we had the correction, right? And it's reacting actually quite nicely from this price. We're looking for price eventually also to get all the way through in there. As we mentioned, yeah, this was a nice one, but eventually this could be also one. You can see kind of the pattern that we have in here and going again. Those were also those that were broken on the way up, and then eventually price goes all the way to get into the next level, wherever that level is. And that's a little bit where price is reacting right now. We can even react a bit more into here. All right, we can maybe start compressing a little bit to show some strength as anytime price goes down, kind of comes back up immediately after that until we have some lows, some highs being broken, and then you can look for that extra 20. But it's a nice reaction. Again, since the election as well, basically price turned. Let's see, this could be a level to find some pressing to the upside. If that doesn't hold, then start looking for price to go further down. Looking at the silver, really nice move as well. All right, so we even managed to break that low, getting into destruction here, and maybe can look for price to eventually go even a bit more to the downside. So that was a level as well for a potential continuation setup in here on silver after kind of reacted nicely from that zone. So yeah, let's see what's going to happen. We might have, again, just broke that level, perhaps can have some reaction from here, or price can even break new lows first before reacting from there and just continue move to the downside and perhaps going into this next structure. Yeah, interesting move in there on silver. And then we have oil, which finished quite negative. Okay, we had this interesting move as price was getting closer to this level in here. I think that was kind of a sign that perhaps it could have a move continuation to the downside. This was a nice fake out in there, and I'm curious to see how price may react from here. All right, I'm just curious. We have all these lows. Some of them we had actually already broken that level. I'm curious to see how price may react from around this structure, this 66 something. That's the next levels where I'm going to be looking for. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. We did manage to break a high, so that's nice. Do you see what's going to happen next? We did manage to break those highs as well, but that was on crude oil. On Brent, we never really managed to break anything. And in here, we actually still continue to respect this structure as well. But same thing happens in the sense that price can easily eventually continue and get a little bit closer to something in here, and price could go higher from there. We did manage also to break that structure. That's something to bear in mind. Just going to undo all this. Right. So that's basically what we have also in here. Potential fake out of this and pressure to the upside. That will be one of the things to pay attention as price is approaching this level. But yeah, so that's basically it in terms of what I'm going to be looking for this next week. All right, so basically in terms of the dollar index, are we going to continue to have a bullish momentum and eventually break those highs on the left, or are we going to start finding some selling pressure in here? One of the two scenarios for me works quite nicely. Again, I still like the idea of seeing price getting slightly higher, picking out just this most recent high and still respecting the overall high on the left side, and then starting looking down. I find still a fresh supply level in there.
If price just breaks completely out the highs, then it changes a little bit the dynamic. We could still see then selling pressure because we just broke a major high, and that usually tends to happen. But then with the idea of looking for a continuation eventually on the dollar index. And that translates kind of the opposite on the euro dollar. Again, pound quite negative as well since the election and the data. We're going to have important data in the UK being released this week, so that's something also to bear in mind. Again, GDP, it was negative this last Friday, if not mistaken, that was released. So it doesn't really look good at this point. We had a strong move on the end pairs, so I'm going to be curious to see what's going to happen in there. Are you going to continue to see more selling pressure on the end pairs, or we're going to have a little bit of a retrace? US indices, we start seeing some correction after the strong move that we saw during the election, US election. And now the question mark is this just a small retracement before price continues to make another leg up and breaking all-time highs and going all the way to the upside, or this is real and we're actually going to have some kind of correction after the first initial enthusiasm that we have? And there could be two cycles in here, right? Is this cycle now where it's still Biden's administration that's going to be in charge until eventually get into the middle of April, 20th of April or something like that? Not April, sorry, January, until the beginning of the next year. And then when Trump eventually starts applying their own not rules, but his ideas, then you may have a shift in the market. So that's something to bear in mind as well. And then of course crypto, Bitcoin eventually I believe is going to get 100k, and question marks what's going to happen after that. We have also gold and silver moving a bit downside. Oil, I think oil is an opportunity to start looking for longs. This price is getting a little bit closer to the downside. I don't really think that oil is going to go all the way down. It's going to be interesting to see, right? It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in here. I don't think the OPEC members want really oil to go all the way to the downside. I think kind of this range would work quite nicely. Again, Trump's going to be most likely doing more oil, exporting more oil. So the production, so the demand, sorry, the supply side is going to increase, and let's see if this also the supply side is going to increase as well. So thank you guys. I'll see you next week, and I'll try to do pre-market analysis as well throughout this next week. Thank you for watching, and yeah, subscribe if you're new. Thank you very much, guys. Bye bye.